Okay, right now we're going to talk about how to clear the Tower of Adversity the easiest way possible. Basically, depending on how many teams you have access to, how to allocate them across these different levels for maximum investment to outcome rate, basically. So, I have two teams. I have Gion and I have Jinshi. Those are my two teams that are strong, right? Because of this, I don't have enough characters to clear all three of these sides. So what I do is, because Rover is just getting built anyways, I take Rover with two AoE groupers and I run the Rover team in the middle two teams. You go your DPS for the side plus sub DPS pretty much. Middle team, your DPS again. Okay, because this is 5 total for the DPS, 5 total for the middle team, which means you can take the middle team over here and do the exact same thing over here with your DPS teams on the first and last, allowing you then to take your DPS teams. You could do your, say, Gion team into this level, right? Using the last 5 energy, and your Jinshi team, say, into this level. The reason you would do it this way is so that Jinshi fights the Monkey Man who resists Arrow, and Gion fights the one that resists Electro, which a big part of Jinshi's team, for me at least, is Yinlin dealing damage off field, as well as charging Jinshi for her big burst damage, so I have consistent damage over time with big pops in between, right? Now, obviously, if you have 3 built teams, 3 built characters, you can just do this normally. You get electro damage bonus. Okay, Kalcharo Yinlin team all the way through. Spectro bonus. Jinshi Yuanwu Yinlin, Jinshi Yuanwu team all the way through. And in the middle, you can play whoever. Now, Gion would struggle here against this boss. You probably wouldn't be able to clear him with the Gion, honestly. Not as a free-to-play or Dolphin level. And you wouldn't be able to clear the Slendering Mephis, particularly with a Kalcharo Yinlin comp, because they resist us. Right? Which is why you would have the third team, either your third team is clearing both of these levels or handling the middle stages so that your Kalcharo Yinlin team could fight this guy and your Gion team or Jinshi team, whatever, can fight this guy. Right? You're trying to fight not into the boss of the same element because they will resist that element 9 out of 10 times. Like, seriously, they will all resist your element. I don't think there's a boss that is an element that doesn't resist their own element. It doesn't make sense that they wouldn't, honestly. Now, you have one other option. This option is the option only for people who are either extremely lucky, dolphins, or whales. Or tryhards. Danjin at S6 at least with an Emerald Genesis clears both of these stages on her own at level 80. I know for a fact I've seen it happen. S6, decent investment echoes. They were on a 44111 build as well. They can, Danjin alone can clear this if you're good at dodging the bosses. Rover together with Yang, which means you cannot use the Emerald Genesis. That is true. That's why Yang is on a Commando of Conviction, because she does not deal the damage in that team. She is there to ult, and ult alone. Because Rover is the damage. That's pretty much how I have to do it. But Danjin also is an option if you just want to actually Unga Bunga skill diff this entire middle side. You can do it with Danjin. It is possible. My Danjin isn't strong enough, even though she's S6 with an Emerald of Genesis. She's too low leveled. Because every 10 levels you are under the boss gains defense effectively against you. The boss will resist more of the damage that you deal. So level 60s is going to have a hard time clearing these boss stages here on each side at level 90, as well as these level 100 middle stages. At level 60, there's no way. Bosses have, you could imagine it as an effective 50% defense, right? And it's going to go up by like 2% or so for every 10 levels. So at level 60, your characters are going to deal 10%, almost 10% less damage. than they would have otherwise. And, you know, over the course of a big fight, that's a lot of damage. But it is actually more than just the percentage, because they also gain a flat rate as well. So it's just less and less and less damage the lower level you are. It's not even so much investment in your character as your level actually matters, because enemies that are higher level than you will tank shots better. So level your main DPSs. That's an important thing in the TOA. Level your main DPSs. Pick your 3, level them to 80, at least, if not 90. It'll make clearing this drastically easier. Trust me. Danjin can clear any one side or the hazard tower. However, this hazard tower is easier because it's just bosses, not so much mob enemies that could really just shoot you out of nowhere and get your 1 health away. This one being, you know, Junrocks and Bracers, Stonewall Bracer. Those are easy enemies to fight. They're bulky, but they're easy, right? So Danjin is an option. The final option for clearing the TOA as easy as possible is building your account in a way that allows you to utilize your resources better. Here's what I'm talking about. I have Jinshi, I have Gion, I have Kalcharo. What weapon do they all use? The Verdant Summit, because it is the one that I have, right? Eventually, Kalcharo might use the standard banner one because it's better on him. But for right now, they all use a Verdant Summit. They all share weapons. They all have their own distinct echo sets. My sub DPSs, Yinlin, Mortefi, and Yongyong all share the same echo sets, being a very strong Moonlit set that I have to get the Heron buff as well as the Moonlit buffs on Outro. My sword characters will also share the Emerald of Genesis, unless they are played together like my Rover and my Yongyong. And my supports, Verena and Baija, share not the Rectifier of Voyager, but the Variation, because it is just better and I don't need 2. So rank up your weapons. Do not care about having dupes. Rank your weapons up and share them. Right? It takes a little bit of time to switch weapons and echoes back and forth, but it is worth it. As well as something that is very, very debated among the community, and it's been largely proven that 4-3-3-1-1 is better, but 4-4-1-1-1 is actually insane. This is something people are not particularly talking about, is it depends on the character, right? Gion, for example, 4-3-3-1-1 all day. You're doing boss echo, his weapon, arrow damage bonus, arrow or energy percent, and then 2 attack percentages, right? Same with Kalcharo. You're going to do the same exact thing with him because they are burst window characters. They are made to go into their ultimate or whatever their thing that gives them their burst window is and deal consistent multiple attacks of damage that hit really hard. You want the maximum consistent damage output on these characters. I want to say the maximum overall damage output, and then it's just like luck fishing for crits, right? But Kalcharo wants to have his high damage when he crits because he attacks a lot, so has more chances. Same with Gion, especially Gion. Gion is the number one, right? He wants to crit, but he wants all the stats he needs to stay as consistent as possible to keep attacking as much as possible to be able to proc those strong crits with the arrow damage bonus and everything else. On the other hand, Jinshi does not care about spectral damage bonus honestly at all. My weapon gives 12%. Her signature weapon gives 56% skill damage bonus, which is additive with element bonuses. So I get 12% here. She gives herself 20% here. Her 5-piece echo set gives 10% and 30% after intro for 15 seconds. So it's 40, 50, 60, 72% spectro damage bonus. With a couple skill substats, we're looking at 100%, and that is fine by me, I do not need more. A lot of people with Jinshi will run a 4-3-3-1-1, whereas Jue, Spectro damage bonus, attack percent with her dedicated weapon, which makes sense because 30, 60, 70, 80, 90 from her talent. She's at 90% there and 56% with her weapon. So she's at almost 150% damage bonus there with no subs. So you can survive with the attack percent increase, right? But for us who don't have her signature weapon, especially, or even for people who do, getting rid of the Spectro damage bonus, you lose 60% Spectro damage bonus for 22% more crit rate. And a easier echo to farm as well. So normally she had about 33% crit rate. She's now at 52.3%. She's not leveled up all the way yet. She's also missing her crit nodes, which is another 10% total once I get all four. So she's at an effective, should everything be plus 25 here, she's going to gain about another 4 more plus another 10. She'll gain another 14. She's about 66% crit rate. Once I max everything out, 233% crit damage, 72% spectro damage bonus, whatever her skill damage bonus is, with a lot of attack because she's getting a third attack percent echo. 4-4-1-1-1 on characters that have one instance of damage that needs to crit, has to crit, is broken. Okay? She starts with base 5, gains 10, that's 15. 2 echoes at 22% at plus 25 is going to be another 44, plus 15 is going to be 59%. On a low roll crit rate on every echo, which is about 6.9%, we'll round up to 7. It's 35 more percent on top of her 44 and her 15, that was 59, 69, 79, 89, 94% crit rate. If you roll crit subs, and if they're all 8% average, not 7%, you have 100% crit rate on a 4-4-1-1-1 build with higher attack stats than you would on a 4-3-3-1-1 with 2 elemental bonuses. And you will crit every hit. Obviously, then you want crit damage subs or a crit damage weapon, as I have. Critting matters more than the elemental bonuses for characters that have one attack that deal all the damage. You have plenty of elemental bonus. Your substats will get you skill percentage. You want to crit that hit because it is another multiplicative instance of doubling your damage on top of whatever your other buffs are. And if you have like a skill damage deepen from Tauchi or something, right? Even better for Jinshi. But you need that crit. You need the consistency. Jinshi is a character where if you are not critting her skill after her rotation, you just wasted a bunch of time to deal subpar damage. She wants to crit. She needs to crit to deal that 100,000 plus damage, If you don't, you're at 50,000, maybe less even. It is a big difference, and it is a big waste of time to not be critting. For how much of a marginal damage loss at a optimal standpoint, if you crit on a 4-3-3-1-1 build with 50% crit rate and more crit damage and more element stats, all this stuff, yes. It is more beneficial to play 4-3-3-1-1. But for overall consistency of the character, having 100% crit rate and your other substats being good enough to get you at least another bit of crit damage, your weapon maybe, etc., etc. If you have Jinshi's signature weapon, you run crit rate, crit damage echoes. Crit rate, crit damage. Realistically, your stats should look effectively like 200% crit damage with no crit damage substats and about 65 to 70% crit rate with no crit rate subs. You get the crit rate subs you need. You get the crit damage subs you want. And you are dealing very, very good damage, especially with her signature. Honestly, the best way to build her, in my opinion, is whether you have her signature weapon or not, 4-4-1-1-1, 100% crit rate. It is that important for characters like this. Building your main DPSs properly matters for clearing the TOA as quickly as possible. Jinshi, a cleave DPS, wants to crit every single hit because her skill is all of her damage and it's in one burst. And then she has to rotate out and do her whole rotation again, which is a waste of time if you're not critting. Havoc Rover, very similar thing. Havoc Rover, their ult is their main damage output. Also, their Echo, the Dreamless, is pretty nice. And you want to crit those. You want to crit her ult, for sure. For sure, her ult. To hit 100,000 damage, you want to crit her ult. You have to crit her ult. So, you run Dreamless, Crownless, crit rate, or crit rate, crit damage for me, because I have the Emerald of Genesis on her, which is a crit rate scaling weapon. Another character, Sanhua, right? Although you cannot do it with Sanhua currently with the Glacio set, you can with the Moonlit set. A Bellborn Geoshalone and a Heron, because she wants to crit. Not only that, with sequences, her crit damage skyrockets off of her ice creations more. She also gives herself even more crit rate after a basic attack 5, which you can factor in, right? Maybe you don't have to run double crit rate. Crit rate, crit damage with a crit rate weapon, and maybe you can get away with less subs, so you get another 15% after basic attack 5, right? You absolutely want to, on burst DPSs, have 100% crit rate. Taoshi, same thing. With sequences, she gains 20% crit rate, crit damage, so her ult is 70% crit rate. Ideally, this would be 100%. I have her on Moonlit set. I could throw a Heron on her, get rid of the Havoc damage buffs, run more defense percent, which is not inherently a bad deal for her either as a support. But now she's critting every single time she does her big slash. Not that she's a DPS, not that it matters as much for her, but if you are building her for damage, you want her to crit. Chishia is kind of middling, and you can't do it with her because there's no other fusion boss. But you like it when she crits. She has auto crits at S1 with her Boom Boom, right? It is nice when she crits. Burst, Cleave-esque characters want to crit every time. Encore does not care. She can't anyways, but she does not care. Danjin does not care as much. However, I do just want to say many Danjin players I've seen run 4-4-1-1-1 on her. Because S1 through 6 gives so many buffs, Havoc damage buffs, all these stats, right? That you do not need to play 4-3-3-1-1. 4-4-1-1-1 with S6 is higher damage output. Because there's less diminishing returns and you're critting every time. So depending on the character, build 4-4-1-1-1. It's cheaper, it's easier to build, and it will clear content quicker in the TOA. And that is what I was doing. The final thing I'm going to leave you off on, or how to clear the TOA the easiest, is that you can reset these stages. It doesn't get rid of your loot because it's based on highest record points cleared. But if you want to redo it with a different team, if you want to change around, like maybe you didn't want Gion on this side, so you want to get rid of it, you just reset down to this. Or just this, honestly. You can probably just do it with just this. Yeah, reset just this. Keep these. Reset just this. You don't want Gion here. You fucked up. You accidentally did this. Maybe you just wanted the Astrites real quick that you were missing to do a pull, and now you have his weapon, and now it's like, oh, he can clear better stuff now. Reset this. Take him off. Clear the stages you need to. You can try and try and try in the TOA. Unlike certain other games, where you would be stuck on one side with one team and another side with another team. In this, you can both share gear between the teams that aren't actively on the field, which is amazing. As well as you can reset and try again, different teams, different comps, different styles to try to min-max your way to clearing both sides and eventually this hazard tower. But I'm going to leave it at that. Straight up, if you want to clear the TOA the quickest possible, build Danjin. She's stupid. At level 80, she clears the middle on her own. Get good, build Danjin, get sequences, get gear, 4-4-1-1-1 build, max crit rate, lots of crit damage, all the things. Go nuts.